Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel, where we explore fascinating insights and compelling lore from the world of The Lord of the Rings. If you enjoy deep dive analyses presented in a documentary-style format, make sure to like this video and subscribe. The channel is still very small, and every new subscriber truly makes a difference. Today, we begin a special analysis examining the most powerful elves ever to appear in Tolkien's Legendarium. This video sets the stage for a journey through remarkable characters, legendary battles, and the extraordinary feats that shape the history of Middle-earth. With that said, get comfortable, leave a comment about which elf you believe deserves the top spot, and let's begin our exploration of these iconic figures. Legolas appears first in this ranking, and although many viewers who know him only from the films may find this surprising, his position becomes clearer when we consider the broader context of Tolkien's world. In the movies, Legolas is portrayed almost like a one-elf army, performing acrobatic feats, taking down an elephant alone, and moving through battles with impossible speed. But within the Legendarium, raw power is measured by more than agility and archery. Legolas belongs to a later generation of elves, one that never stood beneath the light of the two sacred trees of Valinor. Those who witnessed that light had their natural strength profoundly elevated, and many of them performed feats far beyond anything seen in the Third Age. Legolas is one of the rare elves with noteworthy accomplishments despite never being blessed by the trees. Some elves, more powerful by birthright, have almost no recorded combat feats and therefore cannot be ranked fairly. For example, Ingu, who lived beneath the trees and became king of the Vanyar and High King of all elves, left no battlefield deeds detailed enough to compare. Legolas, however, does have a concrete act that reveals his strength. In the books, although he never performs the spectacular stunts shown in the films, he accomplishes something impressive during a night when no one else could see anything. As the Fellowship traveled in darkness, a Nazgul approached silently. While the others were unsure of what was happening, Legolas sensed the threat, drew his bow, and fired into the black sky. A piercing death cry followed, and the shadow vanished. It is an extraordinary accomplishment, especially considering the terror and supernatural resilience of the Nazgul. His feat earns him a place in this ranking, even if others in earlier ages possessed far greater inherent power. Comment below if you agree with his placement, or if you believe Legolas deserves a higher spot based on his unique skill and unwavering courage. Fingon appears next in this ranking, the eldest son of Fingolfin and the father of Gil-galad. His place is earned through two extraordinary feats that reveal not only physical courage but a profound loyalty rare even among the Noldor. The first of these occurred when his cousin Maedhros, then king of the Noldor, attempted to negotiate peace with Morgoth. The attempt was a trap. As soon as Maedhros arrived with his escort, Morgoth slaughtered his men and carried him away as a prisoner. He then chained Maedhros by his right wrist to the volcanic cliffs of Thangorodrim, leaving him suspended in torment. Fingon refused to abandon him. In what could be described as an early special operations rescue, he set out with Thorondor, the mighty king of the Eagles, to reach the remote and perilous cliffs. Upon arriving, however, Fingon discovered that Morgoth had bound Maedhros with a special shackle described as unbreakable. Maedhros, worn by agony, begged Fingon to end his life. But instead, Fingon made a devastating choice. He cut off Maedhros' right hand above the wrist, freeing him at the cost of a limb. Thorondor then carried them both away. Moved by Fingon's bravery and compassion, Maedhros renounced his claim to the kingship in favor of Fingon's father, Fingolfin, ending a bitter family dispute that had simmered like something out of a medieval saga. Fingon's second great deed would also claim his life. Alongside his uncle Feanor, creator of the Silmarils, he fought valiantly during a massive assault near Angband, where he faced not only countless orcs but every Balrog gathered under Gothmog himself. In the chaos of battle, Fingon's strength and resolve shone brightly, but even his fierce spirit could not withstand the overwhelming force of the Balrogs. He fell with honor, remembered as one of the Noldor's greatest champions. Finrod, one of the brothers of Galadriel, stands out as a figure of wisdom, loyalty, and formidable spiritual strength. He was the first elf to encounter men, learning their language and teaching them Elvish in return. His influence shaped early relationships between the races, and his leadership helped establish realms meant to defend against the rising power of Morgoth. Finrod also founded the first Minas Tirith, not the one later seen in Gondor, but an earlier watchtower created to guard against Morgoth's forces in the First Age. Its name, meaning Tower of Guard, would eventually be inherited by the later city in Gondor, itself a sentinel against Sauron. Finrod earns his place in this ranking through two dramatic feats. The first was his confrontation with Sauron, an angelic being who had already fallen deeply into corruption. Their battle was not fought with blades, but with their voices, each singing songs of power designed to shape and bend reality. Though Sauron ultimately triumphed through deceit, Finrod showed remarkable mastery and resilience. It was a duel of will and spirit, and Finrod's performance revealed the depth of his strength. The second feat is even more striking. After being captured alongside 19 elves by Sauron, Finrod found himself in a grim test. Sauron, unable to determine their identities, sent a werewolf into the dungeon to devour the prisoners one by one, saving Finrod for last. When the beast approached Beren, Finrod's dearest friend, the Elven King exploded with a surge of power. He shattered the chains that bound him and killed the werewolf with his bare hands. The creature's dying blow, however, inflicted a mortal wound. Finrod's sacrifice ensured that Beren survived, and his final act remains one of the most heroic displays of courage in the entire legendarium. Glorfindel takes the next position, a figure whose power and legacy stretch across ages. In the First Age, he met his death with profound honor during the fall of Gondolin. As Morgoth's forces stormed the city, Glorfindel fought to protect fleeing elves who were not warriors. On a narrow mountain pass, he confronted a Balrog, a terrifying demon of fire and shadow. Their duel was fierce, and Glorfindel succeeded in killing the creature, but as it fell from the cliff, the Balrog seized him by the hair and dragged him into the abyss. Both perished in the plunge. The pattern seen later with Gandalf reveals something interesting. Balrogs often tried to pull their enemies down in death, as though determined not to fall alone. Yet Glorfindel's story did not end there. His spirit returned to Valinor, where the Valar themselves recognized the magnitude of his courage and purity of heart. They granted him a swift resurrection, a rarity among the elves. According to tradition, Glorfindel spent so much time among the Valar and Maiar after his return that he became something very close to their equal. In essence, he transcended the limits of the Eldar and approached the spiritual stature of an angelic being. When Glorfindel returned to Middle-earth in later ages, his power was unmistakable. The Witch King of Angmar, a being who showed no fear even before Saruman or Gandalf, fled at the mere sight of him. His presence radiated a brilliant spiritual light so intense that it terrified the Nazgul, spectral beings who dwelled halfway between the physical and spiritual worlds. No other character in all of Tolkien's writings inspired such fear in them. Glorfindel's combination of spiritual might, combat prowess, and unwavering nobility makes him one of the most extraordinary elves ever to walk Middle-earth. Feanor takes the next position, a figure both brilliant and volatile, whose legacy shaped the entire course of the First Age. As the creator of the Silmarils, the radiant jewels that captured the light of the two trees, Feanor was the most gifted craftsman ever born among the elves. His mastery extended beyond jewels. He also created the Palantiri, the seeing stones later used by figures such as Saruman. But alongside this genius came an intensity that bordered on destructive fury, especially near the end of his life. Feanor's ranking is based on a feat so astonishing that it stands out even among the greatest of the Noldor. In a moment of pure rage and defiance, he fought alone against all the Balrogs simultaneously, including their lord, Gothmog. The battle erupted near Angband, where Morgoth's armies surged across the land. Flames burned around him, and Feanor, consumed by the fire of his own wrath, charged directly into the heart of the enemy. Though there is no record of him killing any of the Balrogs in that confrontation, the fact that he managed to stand against them at all, without being instantly destroyed, is extraordinary. The Silmarillion describes him laughing as he fought, swinging his sword in wild, burning arcs. He was wounded many times, flames licking around him as he continued to resist. Eventually, Gothmog struck him down, and the other Balrogs closed in. At that moment, Feanor would have died on the battlefield if not for the sudden arrival of his sons, who drove the demons back long enough to carry him away. Realizing that his wounds were beyond healing, Feanor ordered his sons to stop. He understood that his time had come. Before dying, he urged them onward in their oath, still blazing with the fierce determination that had defined his life. His final moments were as intense and consuming as his deeds, leaving behind a legacy of brilliance, tragedy, and unstoppable will. Ecthelion of the Fountain claims the next position, remembered as one of the greatest warriors of Gondolin and the closest friend of Glorfindel during the First Age. On the same tragic day Glorfindel fell, Ecthelion also met his end, but not before performing one of the most astonishing feats ever achieved by an elf: the slaying of Gothmog, the Lord of the Balrogs. As Morgoth's armies stormed Gondolin, chaos erupted throughout the once radiant city. Ecthelion fought fiercely, his silver helm gleaming amid the darkness. Eventually, he confronted Gothmog himself, a being whose power surpassed that of all other Balrogs. Their clash was brutal and desperate. Gothmog struck Ecthelion with such force that the elf's sword arm was shattered, leaving him nearly defenseless. But Ecthelion refused to yield. In a moment of sheer determination, he used not a weapon, but his own body as the final blow. Summoning every remaining ounce of strength, Ecthelion lunged forward and drove the sharp, spear-like spike of his helm directly into Gothmog's chest. Ensnaring the Balrog with his legs and armor, he forced the demon off balance. The two toppled together into the deep fountain at the city's center, an elegant, peaceful landmark transformed into a watery grave. There, submerged beneath dark waters, both elf and Balrog drowned. Ecthelion's sacrifice ensured that Gothmog, the greatest of Morgoth's captains, would never again lead the forces of Angband. His act stands as one of the most heroic moments in all the wars of the First Age, a warrior already gravely wounded choosing to give his life to end a terror that had plagued elves for centuries. His courage, resolve, and willingness to face impossible odds place him firmly among the most powerful and noble elves ever to walk Middle-earth. Earendil claims the next position as one of the most extraordinary figures in all of Middle-earth's history. A mariner of half-elven heritage, he was the father of Elrond, Lord of Rivendell, and Elros, the first king of Numenor. His role in the fate of both elves and men is monumental, but the feat that places him on this ranking is rooted in courage, sacrifice, and an almost impossible victory. Earendil became the first mortal to set foot in Valinor, the Undying Lands, a place where mortals were strictly forbidden to go under penalty of death. Yet he crossed the sea not for personal glory, but to plead for the salvation of both races as Morgoth's shadow spread across Middle-earth. When he arrived, he addressed the Valar with profound humility, expressing the desperation of elves and men alike. Recognizing the purity of his intentions, Manwë chose to spare him, acknowledging that Earendil came not for himself but for the sake of all free peoples. The Valar granted his request and prepared for war, sending vast hosts of the Vanyar and the faithful Noldor to Middle-earth. But they bestowed another gift as well, a blessing upon Earendil's ship, allowing it to soar through the sky like a star. Joined by the great eagles, Earendil set out on a mission that would secure his legendary status. In the skies above the final battle, he confronted Encalagon the Black, the greatest dragon ever to exist, so massive that mountains crumbled beneath his fall. In a battle of fire, shadow, and blinding light, Earendil fought from the deck of his holy vessel. Against all odds, he slew Encalagon in midair. The dragon's fall shattered the peaks of Thangorodrim, marking one of the most dramatic moments in the entire First Age. This deed alone places Earendil among the mightiest heroes ever known, his star shining forever as a beacon of hope in the night sky. Luthien stands in the next position, and her presence here should surprise no one. She was unlike any other being in the Legendarium, the daughter of an elf, Thingol, and a Maya, Melian. This made her a being of extraordinary heritage, half-elf, half-angelic spirit. Her power, grace, and resolve placed her on a level few could ever hope to reach. And the feats that secure her place in this ranking are nothing short of astonishing. Her first great achievement occurred alongside her loyal hound, Huan, a gift from the Vala Orom. Together, they confronted Sauron himself, long before he became the Dark Lord known in later ages. At that time, Sauron served under Morgoth and commanded vast forces of wolves, spirits, and dark sorcery. Yet Luthien faced him without fear. Through her commanding presence and Huan's unmatched strength, they defeated Sauron, stripping him of his power in that region. Her victory forced him to flee in humiliation, a moment rarely acknowledged yet monumental in the First Age. But Luthien's greatest feat came later. She infiltrated Angband, the fortress of Morgoth, surrounded by countless enemies including werewolves and other horrors. There, she performed a deed unmatched by any elf or man. She cast a spell so powerful that it put Morgoth himself into a deep, unnatural sleep. The Master of Darkness, the most powerful Vala to ever fall from grace, collapsed under the influence of her voice and enchantment. Every creature in the chamber fell with him, subdued by the overwhelming force of her magic. Her story contains yet another unprecedented act. After Beren, the mortal man she loved, was killed, Luthien appealed directly to Manwë and Mandos. Through their intercession, she reached Eru Iluvatar, who granted a singular miracle. Beren was restored to life. It was the only time a mortal ever returned from death in all of Tolkien's legendarium. Luthien's courage, compassion, and supernatural power place her among the most extraordinary beings ever to walk Middle-earth. Fingolfin stands at the top of this ranking, and for many, there could be no other choice. His confrontation with Morgoth is one of the most iconic and awe-inspiring moments in all of Middle-earth's history. Fingolfin, High King of the Noldor, faced not just a powerful foe, but the most formidable being ever to walk the world, a Vala who had fallen into utter darkness, older and stronger than the mountains themselves. And yet, Fingolfin challenged him to single combat, driven by grief, fury, and a fierce sense of justice after witnessing the devastation Morgoth had unleashed upon his people. Fingolfin rode alone to the gates of Angband. Those who saw him pass believed the Vala Orum himself had returned, for Fingolfin shone with a terrible light, and his eyes blazed with unbreakable resolve. When he reached the great doors of the fortress, he blew his horn and called Morgoth a coward and a tyrant. His voice echoed through the iron halls, leaving the Dark Lord no choice but to answer the challenge. Morgoth emerged, towering like a black mountain, crowned in iron and wielding his massive hammer Grond. Even he felt fear, for Fingolfin's presence carried the purity and wrath of the Noldor. The duel that followed shook the land. Each time Morgoth brought Grond down, the earth split, fire and smoke erupting from the wounds. But Fingolfin moved like lightning, striking Morgoth again and again with his blade ringle. He wounded the Dark Lord 7 times, and each of Morgoth's cries sent waves of anguish through his armies. But even the greatest of elves cannot battle a Vala forever. Exhausted, Fingolfin stumbled, and Morgoth crushed him beneath his foot. With one final act of defiance, Fingolfin severed the Dark Lord's foot with ringle, leaving a wound that Morgoth would bear for the rest of time. His sacrifice became a symbol of unmatched bravery, proof that even the mightiest darkness could be made to tremble. And with Fingolfin's legendary duel concluded, the tale reaches its closing reflections. The ancient songs describe how even the orcs did not boast of this battle, for the grief it caused among the elves was too profound. Morgoth himself carried the wound Fingolfin inflicted for all ages to come, limping forever after their encounter. The pain of those 7 strikes could never be eased, a permanent reminder that even the greatest darkness could be pierced by the courage of a single heart. From there, the account shifts into a final tone, marking the end of this long journey through the mightiest warriors of elven history. The storyteller concludes by inviting the listener to reflect on the power and legacy of these figures, heroes who shaped the fates of nations, challenged gods, and stood against terrors older than the world. Their stories are not merely battles, but echoes of resolve, honor, sacrifice, and unbreakable spirit. The closing sentiment reminds the audience that this ranking represents only one perspective. Each viewer may carry their own understanding of what constitutes true power among the elves, whether it lies in spiritual might, martial skill, sacrifice, or unwavering leadership. The invitation is open to share thoughts, discuss rankings, and keep these ancient tales alive through conversation. Finally, the narrative shifts into a warm farewell, thanking the audience for accompanying the storyteller through tales of glory and ruin. A gentle encouragement follows, to subscribe, to support, and to continue exploring the vast world of Middle-earth. The journey may end here, but the legendarium remains boundless for any who wish to walk its paths again. This marks the natural close of the text, sealing the ranking of the most powerful elves with respect, admiration, and an enduring sense of wonder at the creations of Tolkien's world.